Now, Osaka, sometimes known as the second city of Japan, is living that is very different from Tokyo, the city we all know of. Although sometimes described as gritty, Osaka does have its fun and could be said to have some of the best foods in Japan, making it just as good as Tokyo to spend your retirement years in. But most of us know what Tokyo has to offer, but could Osaka be a good place of retirement as well, the less known about? Well, let's talk about that today. Hello everyone, this is Ronan Blue, and today's topic would be on the 6 best reasons to retire to Osaka, Japan. Just as a disclaimer, the information provided is a general guide and to be used for educational purposes only. Now, Osaka is a popular sightseeing destination that is hugely popular, mostly for its entertainment and food, but would it be a good place in spending your retirement years in? And some of these questions may be asked. How would life be like in Osaka for expats? How is it different from any other Japanese cities? Is it safe? Is it pretty? And where and how should you look for accommodation? So let's jump into answering these questions in more detail coming now. Number 1, facts about Osaka. Let's learn a little of Osaka's history to start off. Now, Osaka City is in the Kansai region of Honshu in Japan, with a population of about 2.7 million, and is the capital city of Osaka Prefecture, that is the 10th largest urban area in the world with more than 19 million inhabitants. Now, there's about 220,000 foreign nationals from 162 countries living in Osaka Prefecture. That includes the city of Osaka as well as 32 other cities and 10 towns and villages. But of the 162 different nationalities represented in the foreign population of Osaka Prefecture, 7 countries actually account for about 90% of the total: South Korea, China, Vietnam, the Philippines, Taiwan, and the United States. Now, you may not have heard of Kansai before, but it's likely you've heard of Kyoto or Osaka. Now, Osaka isn't as traditional or beautiful as other spots in the country like Kyoto, but it's still a great city to live in for reasons I'm going to talk about. Now, in the past, Osaka was actually originally named Naniwa sometime during the 4th and 5th century. The area was occupied for over 10,000 years and was actually the first capital of Japan. Now, it actually wasn't considered the capital of Japan until the 7th century, and was mainly known as a major port city where numerous rivers met, being a strategic spot for shopping since ancient times. And being close to the water and its rich history made it one of the largest cities in Japan. Now, visitors were coming to Osaka's port from elsewhere in Asia, bringing growth to the city and the country. They brought technologies for creating new novel crafts and pottery, techniques for forging, and the newest methods and know-how at the time that Japan was all new to. All of these new techniques and methods were then introduced into the other regions of Japan that spread like fire, originated from Osaka. It also brought in new ideas, cultures, and politics, being the time Buddhism was coming in as well, becoming a kind of merchant's capital, eventually gaining political power in Japan as time went by. It actually became, in the 15th century, a free city at one point in time, and actually wasn't under the rule of any particular government, and was run only by merchants who banded together to form a guild called the Za. During the 16th century, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, who ended up unifying the whole of Japan, brought peace for 100 years and decided to make Osaka the political and economic capital of Japan, Kyoto being the imperial capital. It later developed into a trade center and came to be called the kitchen of the nation, with markets, with cities sold goods connecting its routes to the imperial capital Kyoto along the Yodo River, and was a major stop along the newly built network of roads. It actually became of further importance where they had built warehouses stationed where regional lords needed to pay taxes to the shogunate and would exchange rice collected through their own land taxation activities and store them at their riverside warehouses in Osaka for money, selling when the rates were more favorable. Interesting enough, the world's first futures tradings also took place at the Dojima Rice Exchange. The buying and selling of important goods, including rice and other foods, was frequent in this region. Rice was shipped out all across Japan from Osaka, providing food for the nation. In time, it would also become a major exporter of goods overseas as well. From Osaka's success, the townspeople during the Edo period also became wealthy, and many residents started to devote time to the appreciation of art, literature, and performances such as the kabuki, and many great writers of the period also came during this time as well. The growing economy actually caused Osaka to develop its own unique culture, even its own dialect, Osaka Ben, and split from traditional practices. During the mid-19th century, there were resemblances to European cities like Paris and Venice, where Osaka, as well as the rest of Japan, modernized in the Meiji era. And the city's industrialization led it to be nicknamed the Manchester of the East. There were further improvements made to the infrastructure, where the rail lines extended out to the suburbs to service new residential areas, and the railway companies also began to manage sports facilities, beaches, and amusement parks. Umeda and Namba stations, made popular in Osaka, actually later became centers of amusement and shopping, with their station buildings boasting department stores and cinemas and theaters nearby. It was really great times for Osaka at that time. Until 1925, Osaka was the most populous city in Japan and the sixth largest in the world. But central Osaka during World War II was reduced to rubble, and a third of Osaka was destroyed because of American bombing raids. Many commercial and industrial areas were targets for these airstrikes. But this didn't stop the spirits of Osakajins, and reconstructing planning came right away with their natural optimism and brought back the city to what it was before. You'll find that many companies and entrepreneurs and their families from that time period are still active in Osaka today. These many businesses still greatly contribute to the economic strength of the city, becoming the core metropolis of Western Japan. Osaka started to regain its world recognition after the war. They even hosted the 1970s Osaka Expo, held for the first time in Japan with a record 64 million visitors. Throughout the decades, Osaka eventually became this international city, growing its presence and confidence in its relationships with the wider world. Now, Osaka-jins has had its fair share of history with foreign encounters that has added a certain uniqueness to them, a willingness to see things with different values from different cultures around the world. It's today a city rich in diversity with a natural merchant tendency for its residents to show interest in people with fresh ideas and a sense of individuality. Now, many locals will actually tell you that Osaka is one of the most laid-back cities in the country, and the people here are known for their warm hospitality, which means as a foreigner, you'll have a chance to learn about Osaka's Japanese culture. Number 2, food in Osaka, yakiniku and horumo. This is all about grilled Japanese beef, and there's plenty of it in Osaka. Some even saying it's where the holy grail of meat would be. Now, yakiniku is a Japanese style of grilling beef, typically where you grill the meat yourself on a tabletop charcoal grill in the middle of your table. So it's actually not a barbecue outside, and you'll be eating indoors instead. You'll likely get real charcoal to cook your meat over, not a gas-powered grill that makes that difference in flavor. There's a wide variety of Japanese beef available on the menu as well, Kobe beef being one of the world's most famous meats. A type of Japanese Wagyu from Kobe, and Osaka has plenty of Kobe beef available. There's also Horomon barbecue in Japan as well, which are random bits of meat like stomach. The Japanese attitude of waste not, want not was what prompted people to start eating it and is still popular today. Takoyaki. Now, takoyaki is one of Japan's favorite street food, which actually came from Osaka. It's Osaka's best soul food. They are ball-sized battered, stuffed with pieces of octopus, and could be considered to be one of the most famous things to eat in Osaka. Osaka actually has nearly 700 takoyaki shops and stalls, which is 4 times more than Tokyo, and are always pretty busy as well. The fun part would be in watching them being made. There's this hot griddle that includes golf ball-sized holes in it, and a bunch of pancake-like batter is poured flat into the hot mold before a pre-cooked piece of octopus are tossed in the middle. As the batter becomes partially cooked, and when the chef determines the correct time, the chef takes a pair of chopsticks and works quickly to form a batter into balls, keeping the octopus in the center. Oden. This is known as a winter food throughout Japan. Oden includes an assortment of ingredients in a broth prepared with both dashi and soy sauce, giving it a light and soothing flavor. Now, it doesn't look all that pretty with all these ingredients stuffed into it and boiling inside, but it's absolutely delicious. There's daikon and yakichikuwa that are popular items, and other ingredients consisting of boiling eggs, cognac, and processed fish cakes stewed in that light soy sauce dashi broth. Number 3. Where to live in Osaka. Senri New Town. Now, this was actually constructed around 50 years ago. There's plenty of shopping centers and parks that provide a super relaxing and easy to live atmosphere. It's actually been on the top 5 best places to live in Kansai for the last 3 years. There are projects everywhere of constructing high-rise buildings to make it an even more popular neighborhood to live in. Umeda would also be listed as one of the best places to live in Kansai as well. There are train lines of every sort, such as the JR railways, Hankyu railways, and subways, which can take you virtually anywhere with ease. There are the stores for shopping and apartments and nearby residential areas that have a quiet and relaxed atmosphere, even being in the heart of the city. Mino City is another place as well, and what makes this place special is that some of the national parks nearby offers beautiful natural spots of the city. It's a quiet neighborhood as well, mixed with foreigners, and you can actually experience all of the beauties of the 4 seasons Japan has to offer in this one spot. Now, Toyonaka City is known to be one of the most popular areas to live as well. It's super close by train to most popular places like Umeda, one of Osaka's liveliest streets. And it's also close to the airport if you want to go to those international trips abroad in your retirement. You'll find everything there as well, numerous shopping complexes, and nearby are apartments and houses. There's also a large population of foreigners as well who live in the area. And finally, there's Namba, which is regarded as Osaka's liveliest city. Right when you get off from the train station, you're within walking distance from hotspots such as Dodonbori and Shinsaibashi, and just a little north of Namba Station is a serene and relaxed residential area. There's a bunch of newly constructed apartments providing that new feel and easy to live environment. And there's also many foreign residents residing in Namba as well. Number 4. Entertainment in Osaka. Now, what's great about Osaka, first off, is that its central location means that it's incredibly accessible from a lot of places. It has its own international airport, and domestically, you can reach any range of cities and countrysides quite easily. You could really experience the different faces of Japan from Osaka, whether it's traveling out of the city to the mountains or finding your spiritual side in nearby Kyoto. But of course, this section should be specifically about Osaka and its entertainment, but it's good to also keep in mind of its strategic location as well. Now, Osaka would be Japan's second biggest city, so tons of things to do. There are temples, alleyways with cobblestone streets. There's also Kabuki Theater to experience traditional Japanese drama, where UNESCO has listed as representative list of intangible cultural heritage. The thing about Osaka is that you can go from the modern to the historic on any given day. There's also the Umeda Sky Building as well. You can see this from all over town, stretching to a height of 173 meters. You can even go on a night tour in Doronbori or Uranamba, where you'll find a food paradise while getting lost in a network of tiny streets that host everything from izakaya or sakaya. But of course, these areas are places you visit day or night if you want that full experience of Osaka culture. The road is packed full of restaurants and bars with the bright neon lights. Many of the cafes and restaurants have their own roof terraces, and this means that you can sit out, listen to some live music, and look out across twinkling Osaka at the same time. You can also go to the Osaka Castle, being one of the most historically significant sites in Japan, originally constructed in the late 1500s by Toyotomi Hiroyoshi with 100,000 workers to get the finished building. The castle you see standing today has been reconstructed many times, but the areas of the park are considered cultural assets. Despite the fact that the castle is no longer the original, it's still one of the most impressive buildings in Osaka. The castle grounds have become a popular place to walk and relax in Osaka. There's also the Ramen Museum. If you really want to know the detailed history of ramen, this is for those that have enjoyed the Japanese snack food cup of noodles. You can even create your own cup of noodles and choose the flavor and toppings that go within it, and there are other ranges of interesting attractions as well. There's also the Tenjin Matsuri as well, one of the main festivals in Japan. It takes place in July and lasts for 2 days. There are these shrines which are hosted through the streets of Osaka with people who wear traditional costumes, and in the evening, you can also watch fireworks displays. Osaka Studio Japan is one of the most important theme parks in the country after Disneyland in Tokyo, and it's similar to Universal Studios in the United States, and you can come here to check out everything related to your favorite films. But yes, there's a Japanese twist here as well, with a range of local characters as well. There's also one of the largest aquariums in the world that sits in Osaka as well, with a variety of sea life that could be found in the seas of Japan. It's a fun and educational activity to do, and it's definitely an experience to remember. Number 5, cost of living in Osaka. Now, the minimum wage in Japan amounts to $1,322 in 2020, which is enough for an average citizen of Japan to make ends meet, and the average monthly net salary is a bit over $2,300, and that makes it enough money to live comfortably in Osaka City. But you can see Japan's strong economy and a high standard of living being visible in Osaka as well. But of course, the cost of living in Osaka depends a lot on your living expectations, where everyone has a unique perception of what a decent life means. And this includes the type of quality of food to the size and comfort of your living space. In most cases, anywhere in the world as well as Osaka, the most expensive thing is usually rent. Now, if you can take care of that, other aspects of living will probably be of pretty decent value. There's actually a saying in Japan where if you spend only half of your salary for rental and save the other half for transportation, groceries, recreation, and utilities, then you'll probably be able to live comfortably. Now, the restaurants in Osaka are very affordable. Not only is it affordable, it also has excellent food, like mentioned earlier, takoyaki, okonomiyaki, oden, for really low prices. A delicious meal like those in a relatively inexpensive restaurant will cost you less than $10. You can also find good deals on meat at markets, cheap Japanese vegetables, but the fruits tend to be more expensive. But most Japanese supermarkets offer cheap and fresh products, and if you plan on cooking all month, it will cost around, on average, around $400 USD per month. Cooking your food is much cheaper than eating out in restaurants. A meal at an inexpensive restaurant would be $7.62, between $4.76 and $11.43 USD. A meal for 2 people at a mid-range restaurant for a 3-course meal would be $47, between $38 and $84 USD. Basic utilities for an apartment would be $179, between $140 and $285 USD per month. The internet would be $44, between $24 and $76 USD per month. A fitness club would be $85, between $66 and $114 USD per month. A cinema for an international release would be $17, between $14 and $19 per person. An apartment 1 bedroom in city center would be $765, between $498 and $900 USD per month. An apartment 1 bedroom outside a city center would be $494, between $381 and $667 USD per month. An apartment 3 bedrooms in city center would be $1,536, between $1,333 and $2,381 USD per month. An apartment 3 bedrooms outside a city center would be $1,081, between $952 and $1,190 USD per month. Now, rent is somewhat high, but for Osaka standards, it's not through the roof. Now, there are crazy expensive restaurants that go for $10,000 a month, but they're for the wealthy, but on average, rent still takes up most of the expenditure. Now, public transportation in Osaka is affordable, well-organized, and abundant. And if you work, the good thing is most companies bear your traveling expense, but you can estimate it to be around $100 a month, all depending on your traveling routine. Osaka is popular for sports and activities as well, but it could be seen as a little costly. A membership in the gym or a fitness club will cost you an average of about $85 a month, but it's a great way to meet other people, so it's worth the cost of exercising and socializing with other people. Number 6, pros and cons for living in Osaka. Now let's talk about the good and bad of living in Osaka, starting with the good. People of Osaka. Now, it's always the people who mostly determine the vibe of the city. And this city, as history has shown, has always been a city of merchants. And the Osaka-jins are a very directly engaging, humorous, laid-back, and very easygoing people. You might think this is a stereotype, but once you step onto the streets, you may start to really believe it. Many will actually come up to you on the street just to say a few words. They even have their own dialect here, which can be sometimes difficult to understand for people outside of Osaka. But the local people are very kind, and that's why Osaka is very popular with expats as well. Life in Osaka. Now, Osaka has a nickname. In the 17th century, when the Japanese emperor moved the royal capital to Kyoto, the rulers gave orders to collect all the goods in Osaka and then distribute them to the rest of the country. They have a great pride in their food. They even have a saying that says, "Eat until you drop." People in Tokyo love to spend their money on fashion and footwear, people in Kyoto on kimono and formal attire, and Osaka-jins on food. Now, street food is not common in Japan, but Osaka-jins love it. Takoyaki being only one example where you can get that food from a food stall along the street. You'll be overwhelmed by the amount of choices you can eat. No tipping. Now, this one goes for all of Japan, but Japanese service and hospitality is always fantastic, and tipping is not common and is actually considered rude to do so. They love to deliver special service to everyone, and they don't understand why people should pay for them. They would rather have you donate it to a temple or a shrine. Staying in an Airbnb. Apartments in Osaka are small, but the Airbnb selections are great. You can usually find one in a good location right next to the metro station. Some of the apartment buildings are also new. But if you want more space, you can find Airbnbs a little bit further from the city, but you can certainly just hop from one Airbnb to another every few months should you wish until you feel you want to settle. There's a lot of flexibility, and you can get an actual apartment later for longer term outside of Airbnb once you find a spot you like, which is a whole different process and a bit complex. English. Navigating life through Japan without knowing Japanese is not easy, but it's possible. But people in Osaka and Japan in general are caring and respectful and will try to do their best to help you out. For medical emergencies, there are some hospitals in Osaka with English-speaking staff. And there are people around that do speak English, but might require a bit of searching for people who can speak it fluently. But if you truly want to experience Japan, you should also speak the Japanese language to communicate with Japanese people and understand their culture better. But many foreigners do live comfortably in Japan for several years, due largely in part to that fact that they are native or near native speakers of English and can use that to their advantage by teaching English. But if you're a native speaker of English or are bilingual, with fluent English being one of those languages, your chances of being able to live and work in Japan as an English teacher are greatly increased, granted that you have a basic college education. Natural beauty, rich in history. Now, Kansai is rich in history, has beautiful towns and friendly people. There are also lots of places to go sightseeing within the city or outside that are only about an hour by train or car to popular places in Japan like Kyoto, Nara, or Kobe. Not as expensive as Tokyo. Osaka will treat your wallet, budget, and lifestyle expenses fairly better, especially compared to Tokyo. People will claim Japan in general as expensive, but this will come down to where you usually shop and your routine spending habits. And Osaka is just about the same size as Tokyo as well, and has many exciting attractions, but will be lighter on your spending, and both cities have some similar areas that rival each other as well. But Osaka over Tokyo does have its location as an advantage, as mentioned earlier. Less work competition. This is another point, and compared to Tokyo, there are more solid business prospects and work opportunities in Osaka. It's true that Tokyo has far more job openings, internship programs, and international companies that look to hire foreign talent. But in that same regard, Tokyo also may seem overly competitive while job hunting. A person with desirable skills in any field has a much better chance at locking in a job opening in Osaka once that job opportunity appears. This is because people may be applying for the same job in Osaka than in the densely populated Tokyo. And also if thinking of opening a business like an English school, a restaurant, or a bar, you will raise the level of difficulty if you choose Tokyo, a place swarming with competition in these business areas, whereas Osaka may just be a little more inviting for new business. Rates for property rentals and office space will allow you to come out a bit cheaper in Osaka, even if considering Osaka's city center location. Now let's talk about the cons. Renting a flat in Osaka. Although Airbnbs are easy, finding an apartment isn't easy at all. For expats, it's actually quite difficult to get a proper place because not everyone wants to rent to gaijins, foreigners. Another issue is that you're not able to speak Japanese, which many building owners see as a big problem, and some actually raise the rent because of that risk. But there are Facebook groups that helps to find accommodation in Osaka, and they mention that the newer the accommodation, the better. There are also various websites you can check out as well, some that do require you to know some Japanese, however. Opening a bank account. Now, if you're planning on living in Osaka, you'll definitely need a bank account. It's sometimes not easy to do with major banks. For foreigners, it's also not easy to get a debit card or a credit card immediately either. You need to live in Japan for at least 6 months to be able to apply for this type of service. Japan is a country of cash. There are still many places that don't accept credit or debit cards. But many foreigners actually open their bank accounts with JP Bank or Japan Post Bank. You just need to head over to a larger post office, bring them your residence card, fill out some paperwork, and it's done. Although the paperwork is in Japanese, they may have English staff that could help you out as well. They'll give you a cash book, a little book that you can insert in any JP Bank ATM, and it will imprint there your transactions and you'll be able to withdraw money with it. With the cash card, you can't actually pay online or in the store. You can only withdraw cash. But of course, there are other alternatives as well to get debit or credit cards as a foreigner. Public transportation. Now, transportation in Japan is efficient, no doubt, but some still get overwhelmed by it, and you can still get lost quite easily. Just make sure you always have Google Maps and allow for extra time. Even if you've lived in Osaka for a while, you still get lost, and that's how large the place is. The stations in Osaka are big and busy. You can go a kilometer within a station just to change platforms. And while you're walking and looking for a train, meantime the platforms changes into shops and you realize you're lost again. It's best to travel by train or metro, and there are actually 7 different train lines operating around Osaka. The most useful one for visitors is JR Osaka Loop Line that goes around Osaka in one big loop in both directions. It even goes to the airport, and it's actually best to avoid taxis as well. They are expensive and not convenient. Japan has the most expensive taxis, but with Uber and Grab riding apps, we'll see if it gets cheaper. Being truly accepted by society is difficult. Now, this may be in Osaka, but it's also all across Japan. Osaka is a foreign-friendly place, but you'll never be accepted as truly Japanese. So as an example, you can come to Japan and teach English without speaking the language, but you may quickly realize that truly being accepted by society past simple pleasantries is a lot more difficult than it may sound. Well, you're a foreigner, so it can't be helped. Maybe what you'll hear a lot. It's expected by some Japanese people that we won't understand what's going on with some of the culture or won't understand what's being said because we aren't expected to understand Japanese. In Japan, to be truly accepted, one must have the blood, Japanese blood, the Japanese language, and be from Japan. Without Japanese, your job options are limited. Now, this is a retirement vlog, but there are those who are retired that still want to work during their retirement. While it's true that you can live and work in Japan with only your fluent English, you're almost entirely limited to nothing but English teaching in the educational system unless you get very lucky. To work in other jobs in Japan, most companies require that you have a certificate from a Japanese language proficiency test that takes up to 2 years or more to get. but once you do, you'll be recognized as having business-level language skills. But Osaka overall is known as a tough, sprawling, iconic, always hungry, laid-back city. You can meet other expats, meet friendly locals, and eat the best food. And many actually choose Osaka because it's close to Kyoto and Nara, two culturally rich locations in Japan where they can visit during their weekend getaways. But if you were to compare to, let's say, Tokyo, just as a comparison because there's a kind of rivalry, some say Osaka food is great, if not greater. Monthly expenses are much more manageable for anyone coming to stay long-term in Osaka. Job hunting could be easier for most foreigners, and many people say Osaka is a more family-friendly city. It all depends on what fits into your own lifestyle. Well, tell me what you think of living in Osaka in the comment section below. If you like this vlog, please don't forget to give me a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell for more of my coming content here. Thank you for watching my vlog. Be free, gain wealth, and travel far.